Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. This is Tova G and Ross Campbell, and we're going to sit down for a podcast. And we're just having a fireside talk about just getting to know each other and to see how we can help make the world a better place. So, how are you today, Ross? How you doing?
I I'm almost perfect. I mean, almost.
Almost?
Yeah, no,
So,
I feel good. It's been an interesting day. We've had a wonderful day chatting with old friends, and
nice.
that is one of the great comforts of getting older is old friends. Children are great, but friends are special. Our kids are all grown up now. At my age, I imagine most people my age, they now have several grandchildren and they bring them joy. I only have one grandson, but I have many friends. That's what I think is so special. And
That,
and I
that's
have a new
that's
friend, Tova
amazing.
Gazer. Yeah,
Oh, well, no, actually, we've known each other for quite some time. And, I want to interject here. Like, tell
sure.
us how we know each other. So, how did we meet?
Well, well, in Toastmasters, I think I was a member of Burlington Advanced Toastmasters. I joined Burlington Advanced back in 2021, shortly after COVID. And you came along, I think, in the last year, and maybe sooner or later, 2 years
Two
ago. Okay,
years,
so all
around
right,
this.
well there you go.
Actually, I think it was in 2021 I joined too, but it doesn't really matter. But I actually was one of the founding members of
Were
Burlington.
you? Oh my
Advanced
goodness.
Toastmasters, but
Okay.
then I stopped. But so tell me, for those people out there, because I had no clue what Toastmasters was growing up,
Right.
and
Right. Me
when I
neither.
joined, I had no idea. So what is a Toastmaster?
Well, a Toastmaster is someone who is incredibly interested and in improving his communications and his leadership. And when I joined Toastmasters, I joined in 2008. First Burlington Toastmasters was my very first club. And it was incredible. The reason I went to Toastmasters was that I had written a book, and actually it was a self-serving promotional book for my advertising agency. I thought if David Ogilvy can do it, I can too. So I wrote a book called On Advertising That Works. And I was out speaking to several groups, chambers of commerce and special clubs. And I wasn't really very good at it. And I knew I needed help. And somebody mentioned Toastmasters. And when I showed up at the Toastmasters Club, I knew I had found it. This feels like home. You know, it really felt great. And my initial speeches were pretty bad. I mean, the evaluations were sometimes, well, they were cruel. I didn't realize how horrible I was. But you know what? The people were so kind about it. It was such a wonderful atmosphere of people who are so incredibly supportive that I never took offense. That it was a growth opportunity, and I am so glad I joined way back then. I, like you, Tova, I left the club for a while because I retired and decided to travel in the wintertime. And then when traveling was no longer a possibility, I decided I got to get back to Toastmasters. Even though I'm retired, I don't have a boss. I don't have anybody to impress, or I have to. But I love the people. I really do enjoy that positive atmosphere. Toastmasters seem to be an unusual group of people who have a lot of optimism. And I love the speeches. I, I've I have grown watching other people grow. It's been exciting. One of the things I like to do, Tova, is talk, as you may have noticed.
Talking's good. The conversation's great. It's also about the listening sometimes too. So
Well,
that's
it
great.
is. It is. And if I ramble on too much, let me know. But
No,
I
this is
I
perfect.
just wanted to if anybody's out there watching, listening, and is thinking about Toastmasters and thinking, oh boy, I'm going to be intimidated. I think you'll be incredibly surprised at just the warmth of the people welcoming you into. into the club. And I have been a member, excuse me, of more than one club. Well, first Burlington was my first club. And then when I retired, I moved up to my cottage up in the Halliburton area and joined the then Halliburton Highlands Toastmasters. And they didn't last long because, again, when I was traveling, I had to leave that club. I wasn't around much. But I just wish that I would have been smart enough to look into this when I was in my 20s. I was,
But don't you think that everything comes at the right time and for a reason, so that
oh,
the
I think
time that
so.
you started was the time that, look at, we met us at a certain time. If we
Yeah,
had been a long time ago, maybe we wouldn't even be friends. But
that's true.
what you talked about business, so you said you're retired. So what did you do before you retired? I think you had something to do with speaking back in the day.
Well, yeah, I was, I tell people I've been in advertising virtually all my working life. I started out in radio. I was a radio announcer, and my first job, which I didn't think I was getting into advertising, but my first job was an all-night disc jockey at a radio and television station in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Now, for those of you who don't know where Lloydminster is, it is smack dab in the middle. The main street of Lloydminster separates Alberta from Saskatchewan. And it was at the time, the only television station for miles. It was fun because I'm sure you've watched that wonderful television show, WKRP in Cincinnati,
Of
where
course.
everything goes sideways. That,
Herb Tarlick with his tape on the ground. By the way,
yeah.
if you're not in your 40s yet, you probably won't know what that show is, but you should Google it. It was a fun show.
And a lot of truth in that show.
Absolutely.
And I can't really talk specifics, but a lot of crazy things happened at that radio television station. If you can imagine it, it happened. And I remember one weekend, most people were down with the flu, including the program director who had to do the television newscast. And he would follow the big voice, and he had a big voice, but to follow the big voice of the CBC. It was a CBC affiliate television station. And George Gonza was the guy's name. I hope if George, if you're listening, God bless you. You were the greatest. But on this particular night, George was at the anchor desk at the local television news division, and he fell asleep. And this was before anything was recorded. This was all live. And so it was Earl Cameron. Earl Cameron was the voice of CBC News. And that's it for CBC News. And good night. And then the camera panned on George, and he was sound asleep at the desk. And I was at home. I was not well, but I just howled. But what a wonderful experience that was, because everybody was a rookie, except for the old guys who were at the end of their careers. But so that was my beginning. The advertising career began as a disc jockey, and I was the host of the Harris Electric All Night House Party. Isn't that
Sounds like fun.
crazy?
Sounds
And that
like
was a
fun.
long time ago, Tova. That was many, many years ago. But what fun.
So if somebody were today to start a business or to start their first job or just get their feet wet in some type of business, what would be that one little tidbit that you'd give to them to say, this is the one thing you have to know?
Boy, one thing you have to know is you have to, well, first of all, one thing you have to be is you have to be kind. You have to be nice. You have to be likable. Doesn't matter really what career you choose. If I was to start over again, I go right back to that television station to do it all over again because I had nothing but a wonderful time. I met fabulous people. Some are still friends today. Now, Tova, I'm revealing my age when I tell you that year was 1963 when I started at that television station.
Beautiful.
And I have friends today that we communicate from all way back when. I mean, fabulous, fabulous stories. So advertising has been my life. I've loved the advertising. I love doing commercials. I had my own advertising agency towards the end of my career, At 32 years, Campbell and Company, Marketing Communications. That was my company.
It
And
wasn't the Campbell Soup Company then.
it wasn't the Campbell Soup. I'm not related to the soup
Oh,
Campbells.
come
No,
on.
no, honestly. If I was going to advise anybody, listen, be kind, be yourself, but be kind. Don't be, there were so many egomaniacs in that radio business, television, and some people were just despicable, really. And they never lasted. The ones that last are the ones that are good people and they cared about others. If you care, look, you could be a great, wonderful real estate salesperson or whatever, sell something. If you want to make a lot of money, sell something. You better learn how to sell if you're going to succeed in anything.
So
That would be
what would be your 3 steps to selling?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, uh, you can't sell anything unless you know what the customer wants. So the first step is to get to know your customer. Even if you haven't met him yet, learn about her. What is it that gets them going? What floats their boat? That's important. The second thing is to identify how exactly you can help them, because people don't want to be sold. They like to buy, but they hate being sold. So don't try to sell. Just try to give them something of value. And the third thing you must do is keep on learning all about your customer and how you can help them, because that's the only way you succeed if you help someone else.
So it's not like a transaction where you go to a cash register and just do one time. You're talking about a relationship. So it's like a friend for life as opposed to that one transaction of a sale.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect.
In my agency, I didn't have a lot of clients. I had maybe 15 clients, but one of my largest clients, and he was very large, he became a best friend. I mean, he and I played golf together. We traveled to Bermuda to play golf. He loved golf, and I loved golf, and we both were on the same wavelength, the same song sheet, and it was relationship marketing is crucial in any kind of.
Totally agree with you, Ross. Totally agree. So I have a question for you. So you've talked about your sales, you've talked about Toastmasters. So tell me about your family and your family life. Like, what makes you get up in the morning and say, yay, it's a great day?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm very lucky because I have a fabulous family. My the greatest achievement in my life, I think, is raising 2 sons. That is what I'm proud of. The fact that I was successful in business is really irrelevant because yes, it mattered because I wanted to achieve something. But my boys were my life, and they still are. I have my oldest son is 53. He will be 54 in December. He is the head of the International Car Show in Toronto. And before that, he was in motorsports. He was the marketing director for, which one was it? The racing team that Fernando Alonso was the championship driver. And then he was with the Red Bull racing team. And that's where he was recruited to come to Toronto to run the auto show. And he's a wonderful kid. I just love him. And he's the father of my only grandchild. My youngest son, Chad, is 50 years old, and he and his wife, Monica, who is a treasure, have a business, a food truck, and they're selling tacos. And
Wow.
they started this a couple of years ago, and they're having a wonderful time with that. And again, it's nothing that I preached that you've got to get into business, you've got to be successful, all that stuff. I have always preached that you've got to be good to people. To me,
For
that's
sure.
fundamental. If you don't have that, you're not going to have much success in life. You've got to be kind. I
And
like
I
kind.
and I like that too. And it's like, like the heart, it's always lovely. But I hear that being a parent is lovely, but being a grandparent is the best. And we should have started there. Do you
Yeah.
what do
Well,
you
yeah, I've
what
heard
do you
that.
think?
I think that there's a lot of truth in that because we can walk away when they're cranky, right?
Give them candy and walk away.
That's right. Spoil the heck out of them and go home.
That's
We
right.
we have one grandson. He's 15 years old. My son's wife is a Russian girl, and she has spoken to our only grandson in Russian most of the time.
Wow.
He goes to Russian school as well as English school, completely uh, he can seamlessly move from English to Russian back to English. And I hope that maybe one day he can be a translator in New York or something. That would be
Perfect.
my love for him. But he's a nice kid, and that's the main part. He's kind. He's considerate, and I think that's what I'm mostly proud of.
Now, you grew up in Canada, so
I did.
in Canada, we don't say A all the time, but we do say sports are one of the big things. So I think that you have some sort of background in sports. Tell me about that.
Well, the only no, really, I'm not much of a sports fan. I never played organized hockey until I was 42, and then I joined the Old Timers League. I am I'm probably one of the least athletic people you know. I love sports. I'm a great spectator, but as a participant, I was pretty weak, pitiful. When I joined the Burlington Old Timers Club back in 19, oh, whenever that was, 1992 or something, I was the most improved player for about 3 years in a row. Yeah, initially, I could skate, but I couldn't shoot the puck. I had an awful hard time with it. But you know what? I love the fellowship. I love the camaraderie of my fellow hockey players. And the good thing was that Burlington, Ontario, had a wonderful uh, organization. They had 5 different divisions, and I was in the silver division, which is the older and the inept. I was among the inept group. So that's my sports background. I mean, I'm a fan. I love.
I'm sorry. I think there's another story about somehow you were coaching some sort of
Oh,
team. So,
oh yeah,
so
that's
in
part
some
of my
others,
skate.
in some others kind of sport that maybe you had something to do with too.
Well,
Tell us a little bit.
I'll just give you a little quick taste of that. I am still a football fan. I love watching football. And back in the day, back in 1979, I think it was 79, my boys were young. My oldest boy was 8, and my youngest was 5. And I wanted to, I wanted my oldest son to play football. He was dying to play football. We were big fans of the Ticats. We had seasons tickets at the
Tie Cats,
55
by
yard.
the way, was from Hamilton, Ontario,
Hamilton
correct?
Tiger Cats.
Yes,
That's
yes.
correct. Hamilton Tiger Cats. We had seats on the 55-yard line. We went to every home game, my oldest son and I, and just loved the game. And then so we signed him up. And the long story, the short story is that when after we signed him up, they didn't have a coach for him, and they wanted me to be the coach. And if I wouldn't agree to be the coach, there wouldn't be a season for him. So what do you do? I mean, of course I'll be the coach. And now what do I do? You know, what's next? Turns out we figured it out. I mean, we just had a wonderful time. I had 2 fathers who were terrific guys, and both their sons were excellent football players for kids. It was a flag football league. And the one boy on our team, his name was Stefan Potasic. I'll mention that now, and I can mention his name because he was a terrific kid. And he turned out to be a wonderful adult, and he is currently the head coach of the McMaster Marauders for the
Oh,
University.
really?
Yeah, McMaster
Wow.
University. And he
Wow.
played in the CFL, and he was on my team. No wonder we won so much. We made it to the championship game. I won the Coach of the Year award for that year, and I didn't even know anything about coaching. I hadn't got a clue. I could watch it, but I had to fake it. Somebody says just fake it until you make it, right? So I did. And that was so much fun. And that I was so grateful.
But as a coach,
Yeah.
you actually probably learn more from the kids or the students than you do as being helping them sometimes. Do you find that? Or because I
Well,
find that coaching is a two-way street. Like sometimes you have a great intention, you're going to coach your child, your student, an athlete, and then all of a sudden you find that you learn life lessons. Is that correct?
you learn a lot of life lessons. If you've ever coached any kind of a team, I don't care what kind, whether it's basketball or volleyball or football or baseball or whatever, what you do learn not just from the players, but one of the things that I found is that the vast majority of the parents of the kids who play sports wanted their kids to play sports, but never showed up to watch them.
Oh,
And that was really hard on these kids. And I made a point because I was such a devoted father. I mean, I loved my boys, and and I would just want to help these boys out. And to me, it was just a precious time. What we learned from the boys is that when you motivate them by offering praise and some sort, see, let me go digress a bit. When I started the team, I phoned up the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were also black and gold. And I had, I was stupid enough to think they might help. So I got a hold of the PR department at the Pittsburgh. That was the year they were the Super Bowl champions. And I got a hold of the PR person and I told him, hey, I'm the coach of this team and our jerseys are black and gold, just like you guys. Can you give me any advice and how to help and motivate young little 8-year-old boys? So, oh, yeah, sure, we'd be happy to help. They sent me tons of little stickers of the Pittsburgh helmet,
Nice.
their
Yeah.
logo. And they
Yes.
said, give boys this sticker for effort. And never mind, there can only be 1 or 2 boys on the team that'll score touchdowns. But it's the boys that try hard. When they try hard, they fall down. They don't, they might miss that grab of that flag or whatever, but say, I want to just, and recognize it. After every game, we had all these stickers lined up. We had all the boys down on one knee. Okay, guys, Larry, boy, were you good out there. You sure, you worked your heart out. Larry, I want to give you a sticker for your helmet. Well, Larry was absolutely thrilled. He'd come and he'd have his helmet covered with stickers by
Do
these.
they still have their stickers? Do they ever reach out to you anymore? And do
I
they?
no,
You
not
should find
really.
out. You should find
That was a
out.
long time ago.
I
But
know, but you know.
I've got a portrait that was taken of my team when at the end of the season, and it's got all the boys in it, but they all their smiling happy faces, but their helmets are under their arms, so I didn't see the stickers. But
Uh,
but every kid who got that sticker, it was like, wow, I just scored a touchdown kind of thing. And I know that's one thing I learned about life from the kids is that look, you praise someone for doing something, even if it isn't major, but you got to give them credit for something. That's a motivator.
for sure.
That's a huge motivator. And the children, and you know what? When I ran my business and then I had employees, I applied the same techniques. And it's not a technique so much as it is, listen, you did a great job. I'm going to, here's a gift certificate to the restaurant. Go buy your wife a meal, and do something special. And I think if you can just listen carefully to your kids when you're even your own personal kids. But in my kids, I had like 15 kids at that football team, and they were just sensational, just unbelievably good. I loved it. That's a time of my life I do not regret deciding to do something I was really not qualified to do. but
Oh, we always sometimes fall into these things.
yeah.
If I gave you a magic wand right now, Ross, what
Mm.
would be the 3 things that you'd want to do with the magic wand? Like any wish whatsoever they haven't done yet.
Oh, Tova, come on. Oh, what I'd like to do with my magic wand?
Yes.
I would love to see
You have 3 wishes. You get to have 3 wishes.
3 wishes.
Yes.
Okay, I wish there would be no more wars. That'd be one.
Okay.
I wish that people would come together of all religions and all cultures, come together as one. It was like what John Lennon wrote that song, imagine, just imagine. That would be my second wish, that the
I
people
think that's really your first wish still as part of the
well, it could
same.
be. I don't want any more
Okay.
wars. I
Okay.
hate war. I would want people to come together. I'd want people with talent to share it more. I'm encouraged by some of the stars, the hockey stars, the football stars, who are not as greedy, that come up and share their gifts with children who are in the hospital. I love that. I would wish that every athlete would do that, because that would just put a smile on the faces of kids, and man, they sure need it. And I guess peace would be the big thing. If I could shake that magic wand and do that, boy, I'd do that in a heartbeat. You bet. Today, that would be a priority for me.
You were talking about hockey stars and going to visit kids.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about, and this is somebody who was originally from Toronto, and he's been to lots of different clubs, and he's a hockey star, PK Subban.
Oh
His,
yeah.
his kindness, his heart, that he's so heartfelt, even after being a hockey star for Montreal. And by
Hmm.
the way, the Habs fans out there, I know you're a big group of people. But to this day, he still donates to the Children's Hospital in Montreal, and he's
Yeah.
created a cookbook. And I think that if
Wow.
there's one person that I'd love to shake his hand and say, well, good job, or
Yeah.
I'd love to, just to meet him, because his enthusiasm, and I'm sure that with all the adversity he had throughout his life, he overcame it. So having no adversity, I don't believe that that's ever a thing, but if we could get rid of adversity in life, that would be great. But I think it makes us stronger. And we have to be strong with that. But PK Subban would be one of my greats. I mean, there's other people. I met Dougie Gilmore several times
Did you? Oh yeah. Okay.
from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Of course. Yeah.
Funny way I met him, but that's for another day. But I have met some older hockey stars like that were part of the Leafs back in the day when I was a little kid. But is there any one person that you think would be a great person that sports or somewhere else that you'd like to meet?
I would really like to meet Barack Obama. I have always been impressed with him. I'm impressed with him for a couple of reasons. It's difficult to imagine just what he overcame to hold the highest office in the most powerful country in the world. With racism the way it's been, not just in the States, but globally,
Mhm.
what he achieved and the courage that it took to do that. I mean, I would love to sit down with him. I'm going to tell you a little story, if I may, about some of my friends. When I was a kid, my parents were missionaries in Brazil, and I went with them. And we were Protestants in a Catholic nation. Most people despised us
Oh.
because we were Protestants. Most
Mhm.
people don't understand that. But back in 1955, there was no ecumenical conference. There was no getting together of Christians, meaning the Catholics and the Protestants. My best friends for 2 years in Brazil were black boys, and guess what? They were also Catholic. They were they were my only guys that would stand by me. And when I came back and I discovered some of the racism, I was just astonished. How could you do this? These people are just like us, you know. But I think that what Barack Obama did was he gave a lot of hope to millions of people, not just in America, but in Canada and throughout the world, and showed courage. Man, that's the guy I'd like to have lunch with.
Okay. So you've missed out on one of your very important people in your life. You have your special partner in life.
My wife, yes,
Yes.
and we've been married for 58 years.
Wow.
And yeah,
Congratulations. When's your anniversary?
November. No, sorry, better get this right.
Oh.
No, no, my birthday's November. We were married on February the 19th, and a
Nice.
very frosty day in Oshawa. We were married at the Salvation Army Citadel. She was a member of the Salvation Army, and my father married us.
Oh,
My
wow.
father was a minister. Yeah, and that that's quite a fond memory too, because Sylvia's mother had married uh, another man. Her father died, and she was a Bates, and her mother married a man called Bob Viggers. And so when my dad was marrying us, he said, "Do you, Sylvia Viggers, take Ross Campbell?" she, she almost said no. That's not her name.
Oh my.
Yeah, but it turned out they were able to change it. It wasn't a big deal. So no, we've
That's
been married 58 years.
beautiful. So it's going on 59. Oh,
It'll be 59.
you just had 58. You said originally it was November, but it was February.
No, no,
You
no,
just,
no.
yeah.
I'm the guy that's getting old in November.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, that's fine. So we've talked a lot about a whole bunch of different things. So give me, if I were to ask you three beautiful things to make every single person feel a happiness and smile and kindness, what were the three things that you would want to share with them today?
Well, that that's it, that's a very good question. That's a little more difficult to answer, to get an articulate answer.
While
What I
you're
would
thinking about that, I'm just going to say to our viewers that we have this thing in Toastmasters called table topics where you have to think on your feet. So I'm making Ross work.
and thank you for giving me that extra few seconds to think. And that's the trick to it. Now, for people who might want to come out to a Toastmasters meeting and they get asked a tricky question like this, and you're stumped. One of my favorite ploys when I was in Toastmasters was to change the subject.
No,
And
we're
you
going back to the subject. You have to answer the question. You're advanced,
well, I do, but I can also kind of
I
get
know, I know my
mumbling and fumbling
question.
around.
Yes, no, but
Well,
that's okay.
this,
There's no counter grammarian here to tell us,
yeah,
oops, we said oops, or all those bad words
yeah,
that we're not supposed to use.
that's right. That's right. Well, I think that if I'm going to share some of the kindness, I want to talk about Toastmasters kindnesses, if I may.
Okay.
One of the kindest people I met was Bill Brody. You know Bill. Bill is a co-founder of Burlington Advanced Toastmasters. I've known Bill for many years, and I recall a time we had. I was in a tabletop contest. I joined every contest. I lost almost all of them, but even at the club level. But at least I tried. I made it all the way in the tabletop contest to the division, and I was asked a question. And Tova, I was blindsided. I just didn't know I was going to blah 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 blah. You know? And then after I
I'm
did
going to
finish
use that
something.
blah, 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 blah thing.
So
I like that.
I
That's good.
sat down and I thought, oh, did I ever blow that? And and then it ended, and Bill came by and he says, "Would you like a second chance at that?"
It's called a mulligan. You get to do a redo,
I
but
wish I
but you
could.
still haven't answered my question.
Okay, yeah,
Three
rephrase
things.
the question for me again.
Okay,
Just
what are the three
three
tidbits
things.
or the three wonderful things that you want to share with the world? Because we're gonna be shutting down soon. So just want to give three tidbits to make somebody smile, have kindness, and a happy heart. And
Okay,
if they're having anxiety, this is something to make them feel good.
I think people my age get to worry a lot about health issues. I think what we cherish now. I'll be 80 years old on my next birthday, and I'm still a Toastmasters. I want to continue. I still want to become a DTM if I can make it. But I think what I want to share with people in the kindest mode is to say, don't forget to stay in touch with old friends. I have I started a blog, or a group of, I call it a blog. It was really an email that I sent out to many friends I met. During my early years of retirement, I traveled in a motorhome. We traveled all over the states, went down to Florida and then all across to California, but met so many people, so many interesting people over those years that I built up this mail list of 200 people. And I recently sent out a note to what was left of that 200 list. It's pared down to about 180 now. And I just said, hey, I just want to get in touch with you because, and I send this out to only people I like. Nobody I met that I didn't like, there's no way they're going to make it on this list. So you're getting this because I thought highly of you. And just went out a couple of days ago. I had 36 replies from people getting back and saying, hey, thanks. If you want to make somebody happy, pick up the phone, call them. I received a phone call from all those 37 people, all those people, from a guy that I haven't seen in 12 years. He said, hey, Ross, thank you for writing the email. I am so glad you reached out and touched base with us and touched my heart. And I thought, boy, am I ever glad I did that. Stay in touch, reach out. When somebody's in trouble, don't be afraid to call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. That to me is an act of pure humanity, of kindness. And I love it because you get it back. You know, it's like that book, about not paying it back, but there was a book written
Pay
about,
forward.
well, again, it's about if you want to get something, you got to give something. You cannot expect to get something without first giving something. Like the guy said in the book, he said, you can't go to the fireplace and say, give me a fire. First, you got to put in wood, and then you got to light a match. It doesn't come easy,
Well,
but
I
it's
want to
important.
thank you, and I'm sorry for cutting you off. We're going to meet again, but I want to thank you so much for talking with us today. And to our viewers, if you want to reach out to Ross Campbell, you can contact him through me, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with him. Ross, stay behind. I'm just going to stop our recording, but thank you to everyone, and have a great day.